Hello, and thanks for joining us on the podcast that discusses all things gaming. Coming to you from the home of Gen Con and the gaming capital of the world, this is The Established Facts.
All right, so now we're live. All right, welcome everybody to the Established Facts. My name is Derek Knudsen. I am not the host nor the substitute host. In fact, I'm one of the I am the loud, foul-mouthed person on the podcast. And we have a special topic episode right now, which I will get to in a second. Our regular host will be back, but I have a very great roundtable put together to talk about gays in gaming. So, without further ado, like I said, I'm Derek Knudsen. I am part of the regular people at the Established Facts, and that's about the only person you're going to get who's regular on the Established Facts. So let's find out who these other people are. Starting with Alex.
Hey, my name is Alex Ioba. I've done everything from tabletop gaming to normal con LARP gaming to buffer LARP gaming to online games. I played 5 years, so I've basically played everything, but not really involved in podcasts. So this is fun.
Sweet. I've got 3 people from live via satellite from somewhere up north, I think.
Minnesota. All 3 of us are from Minnesota.
All right, so
Taylor,
you go around.
All right, well, my name is Taylor LaBreche. I am a student at the University of Minnesota. I'm an English major, and I really like studying a lot of stuff. Gaming, especially video games and RPGs, are like really interesting to me because of not only the nonlinear narrative aspects of them, but also, especially like with tabletop RPGs, the interactive narrative is something that I am like really fascinated with. So that, I guess, is my background. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons and other games like that since I was in like 4th grade, and I am a senior now.
College.
Senior in college, yes. Senior in college. I have graduated high school, if anyone is wondering.
He does not live in his parents' basement.
Well, that's part of being an English major. So there's that. But yeah, I am an avid video gamer, but my experience is kind of limited. I primarily switch between the Mass Effect series and World of Warcraft.
Cool.
I guess I'll go next. My name is Anthony Thangi. I have been gaming gaming for almost 25 years. As far as tabletop games, I've played D&D, Shadowrun, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, quite a few different games. I do enjoy playing video games. I enjoyed a couple of the Mass Effect games. Dragon Age I'm particularly very fond of. So, yeah, that's
awesome. My name is Adam Gottfried. I am on 2 podcasts currently, Kicked in the Dicebags and Side Project Podcast. I am an avid gamer, have been for the last 12 years. Yeah, 12 years. I've been GMing for just as long. I kind of dived in head first. I do enjoy the odd video game, but I have 2 children, so that makes it actually very difficult to play said video games. So, yeah, that's really about it.
Cool. And from New York.
Hi, my name is Helen Kyer. I am an educational technologist by training. I run the support services for the online classes at John Jay College. I'm also an adjunct professor of public management at John Jay. And I've been a gamer probably, I think, since my freshman year of high school. I am not going to say how many years that is now, but it's been a long time. It's been decades. I'm sorry?
So that's why I went with years and not how long ago I started.
But I played, I was a very devoted Living Greyhawk player. I like the living campaign setups for RPGs. I'm currently playing Pathfinder Society. And in terms of video games, I play a lot of MMORPGs. I played World of Warcraft for a long time. I've been currently playing Guild Wars. I'll try anything pretty much once with a video game, but I'm not fond of first-person shooters.
All right, well, welcome, guys. I'm glad that you guys decided to join me on this special topic. Part of the impetus behind this is that it's a topic that I've wanted to discuss and bring a good group to discuss about for a couple of years now. And now that I've got, I'm part of a podcast, now I get to do these things. And there are a number of things that are bringing this into the spotlight. One is that there is a gaming convention in San Francisco that is dedicated to the LGBT community called GamerX. That's happening in July, where I and a couple other friends will be. I felt, especially since living Greyhawk, I felt that it was a underserved community, especially after the fifth time that the players started hitting on the barmaid, or it just got on my nerves. So I made the most stereotypically gay character in Living Greyhawk and to see if they could would allow me to get away with it. And I bought the Xbox 360 solely to play Fable, because it allowed me to play a gay character on it. We are going to limit the discussion to video games and RPGs, primarily because it's tough to talk about trading card games and board games within this topic. If such a discussion comes along, then we might put it into another episode if we decide to continue on and make a series on this. But per the Established Facts tradition, we are going to start off with a versus topic, and that is sexuality important in main characters? And we're going to start off with Alex and go around the same way that we did introductions.
Okay, no.
Hold on, Helen?
What do you mean by main characters? Do you mean NPCs in the campaign, or the characters we play?
Characters that you play and the main character of a video game. So I guess, yeah, the main character that you would play. Cool. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay, so no, I don't think it is.
Well, you are next, Taylor, so you go.
I think it's extremely important. So, I mean, are we just like lining up our opinions and then we're going into it?
We're going to line up our opinions and then we're going to defend them.
Okay.
I think it depends on the game.
Offensive. Okay, well, I get to shoot them.
Hey, we're easy targets.
I tend to agree that it does depend on the game, but I think overall, the sexuality of the characters really vastly depends on the personal preferences of the person playing them. So no, ultimately, I don't think it's that important.
Helen?
My response is a little bit along that lines. I think it has it depends hanging over it. It can be important in an RPG depending upon the group, because it can add something really valuable to your role play, but then with other groups, you could have a very different play style, and it could just not fit in well, or the game could just be too combat heavy, and it's lower on, say, the role play side. So I think it depends upon the group you're playing with and the campaign itself. I think it's less important in video games, but it can be an interesting aspect to the game.
All right, and I'm going to actually say yes, it is important. So we had 2 no's. One was a very hard no. So Alex, why isn't it important?
Well, to me, I have played both gay characters and straight characters, and in every single game, when it would come up, it's entirely side. Most of the games we play tend to be very mission-oriented, both video games and not, and I see it the same way I see my sexuality. I was the one who was considered to be gay in high school, even though I was straight-ish. And to me, my sexuality is nobody's business. So the main character does the actions because of their personality. Certainly, their sexuality may play a part in how they specifically choose, but it's about their decisions in going forward with the plot. So it may have internal importance, but I don't think ultimately it's externally important because you don't often see inside the heads of the people as they act. You just see their actions.
Yeah, but in video games, I have seen so many romantic storylines. I don't think that there is, except for like maybe first-person shooters. Every game that I've played has had some sort of romantic interest. So primarily the main character is a male, and they go after a female NPC.
In Guild Wars, Derek, you have 2 major characters that are lesbians and involved with each other.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go. Yeah, go.
Oh, yeah. Guild Wars is an excellent example of that. Like, I played for a long time, and I really want to get into it. My computer's just not good enough to run it because it's a brick. But yeah, not only are there just, like, it's not an isolated example of lesbian characters. Like, there's all sorts of really, like, pretty good representation of queer identity within Guild Wars. Like, there's people who don't even identify on the binary spectrum who, like, are the NPCs that you run in, and they're not, like, shunted off to the side as in, like, periphery characters. Like, you're part of your character's living story, and you're just like, hey, there are queer people, and they're presented as something that's not, an exception to the norm.
Right, but that's as NPCs. Is it also player characters?
I would have to ask Helen about that because I haven't gotten too far into that game.
In the sense of like all our MMORPGs, it depends upon how much you interact, say, in group chat with other characters for a representation of sexuality, but it does not come up that much within gameplay.
Okay.
You do have an ongoing story for your character where the outcome is determined by your responses to certain events and your interactions with the NPCs, but it's kind of like Alex is saying, it's not anybody's business but your own characters. It's not made part of the storyline.
Okay.
With the NPCs, though, it was, because the one woman thought her partner was dead. And they had whole lines of dialogue when she discovered her partner was still alive.
And I think I should also point out that it's a caveat. I don't think that is important now. I think it was important before we had games like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, which had very good representation of choice between gay, straight, or in between.
Right, but then in the majority of the AAA titles, like Uncharted and and Assassin's Creed, I mean, I'd like to see one of those types of games, like have a male gay protagonist or a female lesbian protagonist that you would play as a main character.
Right, and
I can definitely see it. My only point is I look at it now more like Agent Coulson from Avengers. He could have been gay or been straight. It didn't matter. They described his partner as a cellist, and that's
right.
it. And it leaves it to your imagination what somebody's sexuality to me is their business, and it will influence their decisions, obviously. But to me, I don't care one way or the other, and the majority of people I play with will play both sides, including me. So I don't think it is as important now as it used to be.
Let's talk to the fence sitter.
Okay. I sit on the fence because
he likes the vantage point from there.
Yeah, I do. It's awesome.
Great sniper's nest.
And like I said, I make a really great target for the people who are trying to hide out. But I sit on the fence because I think like Helen said, it depends on the kind of game. If you're playing a dungeon crawl, whether you're gay, straight, or whatever, it just doesn't matter. Like, to me, if you're going out and just killing monsters, dragging their possessions back, I don't think it really influences the game one way or the other. But when you have like a story game, when you have more RP involved, you have more opportunity for better stories. But like with video games, I think BioWare has done a fantastic job through, even going back to like Baldur's Gate 2, where you had, you could have straight male and female characters and gay male and female characters, and it didn't impact the story too much, but it was kind of an interesting little side, kind of a side quest. And it got even better with like Mass Effect and Dragon Age. I mean, Dragon Age just is like the example of what video game RPGs should be, in my opinion. So,
Another good one was Jade Empire.
Never played that one.
A random anecdote having to do with Dragon Age. I completely accidentally made my character a gay male.
How do you accidentally do that?
I just didn't know what I was doing, and the choices that I made led him to have sex with one of the other male characters. I'm like,
he was flirting with Severin is what he was doing.
That can also happen in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Awesome. That's true.
Because there are different scenarios based on your character choices and responses to questions where the next program response is automatically a flirt. And if you're playing a female character, it flirts for you with other female characters. Or male.
Wow.
I think that's really great, because something that Derek brought up is that all these AAA titles have these stories in it, and regardless of the importance that they play in the narrative of the video game, they're all there and they're all forced onto the character, and they're all these heterosexual romances. But if you look at games like these BioWare games, and you just accidentally have a queer interaction, like that puts onto the straight community the things that the queer community has had forced onto them with all these AAA titles, where it's like,
that's right.
All right, well, I'm a bisexual man.
BioWare game, isn't it?
What was that?
Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is a BioWare game, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, like, for me as a bisexual man, like, I'm really, 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 really tired of the default, like, forced option in video games being only, like, muscly, scruffy white dude falls in love with thin, waify white woman
with giant breasts.
Yes. And so, like,
as a gay man, oh my God, it's like I'm so over it. Because it's like,
I am so tired of it. And so, like, having these games, that's why I think it's incredibly important to have these games where you can have, like, this choice to identify strongly with your character, because that's something that I'm sure that we'll get to later on, has been really restricted, especially in the newer generation of AAA games, to this sort of, like, frat bro style of sexuality.
Yeah. Speaking of that, so we've talked about BioWare a lot.
I thought you were going to turn to me after saying that. I'm like, hey!
So yeah, we've talked about BioWare a lot, and I'm looking forward to a time when it's not, oh, look at BioWare, the one company that is doing this thing.
Right.
And go ahead.
I mean, I haven't had personal experience with whatever the company that makes it, because I have a crappy computer and an Xbox, but apparently Last of Us is really, really great for having that visibility, and their company has like gone on record, I guess, for saying like good things about that. So I mean, that's something that I'm looking forward to. And I know that Guild Wars has some options. There's some other like smaller MMOs out on the market. Like I wanted to ask Helen if she'd played something by, I think the company is like Roberts Space Industries or something. But there's apparently an MMO that's on the market that has like a slider setting for your character's gender or sexuality. So you can't just be male or female. You can like situate yourself somewhere in the middle, or you can't just be gay or straight. But like situate yourself somewhere in that spectrum. And
so you can be
like,
trans.
What was that?
That's awesome. You can be
exactly.
That's
and so,
awesome.
Like, for it, like the majority of characters, like it's okay, cool. You're gonna switch it from one side or the other, but like for the minority of characters who identify outside of that binary, that is something that's hugely important because that's like the first time that they're being represented.
Yeah, that would be.
I mean, I don't even know exactly what it's called, and I can't even take credit for bringing this up in this sort of discourse because I got the idea from listening to Justice Point's podcast. And they were talking about it, like...
I don't know what it is, but I want to play it.
Yeah.
So, how... I mean, BioWare did it. How do you introduce LGBT and hate my community for having, like, the alphabet soup?
You could just do what my son does, and instead of using regular the actual acronyms, he just goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Well, that works for me, too. I've had way too much caffeine to basically list out my community's letters. So how do you introduce queer video game characters to... I mean, the target demographic, from what I understand, is young, straight males. Do you believe that that's still true?
Well, Derek, that's what I love about Guild Wars. The characters, Marjorie Delacroix and Casimir, and her partner Casimir, they're not introduced. They're just part of the game. They're no different than anybody else, and there's no big or special event made about them other than the fact that they're major NPCs within that world.
Okay.
No, I'm good. No, actually, I think that's really important. Is you don't make a big deal out of it. You don't even make a deal out of it. It's just it's an option you have in the game. Obviously, you want to mention that this is an additional option when you're making your character, but that's it. It's you can. If you want to be straight, you can be straight. If you want to be gay, you can be gay. If you want to
be completely asexual,
if you want to be completely asexual, you can do that too.
Huh.
I come down on this. That's part of the reason why I said it does not matter, because as far as a video game is concerned, as far as I'm concerned, I don't give a shit if you're gay or lesbian or whatever. You know, if your character is gay or lesbian or whatever, as long as it's still a good game. It does. Well, it wouldn't matter to me either way. But I mean, as long as it's a good game and it's presented, tells a good story or whatever, you know, the incidental fact that your main character is gay. All right, is it telling a good story? We're good. Not a big deal.
And also to make sure that they're not just one big stereotype of anything, be it straight, gay, trans, whatever. They have to be a deep character, not an extremely shallow one.
Oh, yeah.
Well, one of the examples that I've run across more recently, as far as this is concerned, is the character of Jonathan Harkness from Doctor Who. He was kind of
Jack Harkness.
Jack Harkness. Thank you. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yes, I am the Doctor Who person in the crowd. So
there you go. He was very much he was introduced as kind of pansexual. He would pretty much fuck anything that moved. You're welcome, Josh.
I was just hoping that I wasn't going to be the first person. There we go.
And just because I love Josh so very much. Anyway.
And that Mario moment was brought to you by Adam.
Anyway, so the point is that, you know, that character, he was such a deep and interesting character beyond the fact that he was willing to have sex with just about anything, that it kind of overshadowed anything else, any other, you know, kind of stigmas or stereotypes that would have happened. as a result of it. So, because of this, I am a straight male. And I grew up with a fairly open-minded household, but it wasn't really until I started dating my wife, the person who's now my wife, and she informed me that she was bisexual, that I really kind of got into the ABCDEFG community. And, I do consider myself at this point a very ardent advocate for queer rights. And, I'm very vocal in the community around here. I mean, we do the Pride Fest every year, and I just love it. It's fantastic people, fantastic community. And so when I say that, sexuality in games and video games doesn't matter, that's kind of what I'm referring to. I mean, as long as it's not a giant, flagrant, painful stereotype, it's really just incidental to the greater story that's being told.
Yeah, and one of the first times that I've actually encountered a gay character, and it was the flagrant stereotype, was in King's Quest V. There was the tailor in the city, or it can't be called city, town, really. And he was everything. He was like super swishy, and so that was the first introduction that I had to how people really thought about gay characters. And then fortunately we got further along and we got better representation of these characters with much, much deeper storylines. But I mean, I'll always remember that first outing where it was like I went into the town, into the tailor shop, and it was like, "Hello, and how you doing?" And it just was
everything is super.
Super. It just graded on me like a blackboard. But I think it's important that we don't just say, okay, we've got BioWare done, no more gay characters need to be made. I think that it's important that if it makes sense in the storyline, or that it could make sense in the storyline, that the option gets presented.
I totally believe that it should never be used as a political statement, because that would just seem forced to me in terms of the storyline. Like, we made this, another company other than BioWare comes out with a video game, and they basically, one of their selling points is you have a character option of being gay. Like, I really don't think that would fly. I don't think that would, it would seem forced. It would seem almost as, I guess, bigoted as, deliberately leaving out the gay option, in my opinion.
Counterpoint, but sorry, Jonathan, in advance, I would buy the out of that game.
You're talking about Josh?
If it advertised on the box, your character does not have to be the stereotypical straight action hero. I would buy that game twice. Derek and I have talked about it, but I am so tired of, if you want to play this video game, you got to be straight. And I was talking to Derek about it when he was rounding this thing up, but one of the huge defining things for me in terms of realizing my own sexuality was the Mass Effect series, because in Minnesota, I mean, we have the Twin Cities, and that is a really, really great hub for the queer community. But
anywhere else, don't bother.
Well, yeah,
in
Minnesota. But so,
and don't you dare come out in Duluth, because I swear to God, they will lynch you and throw you into the.
Which, yeah, we don't need to bring up the Duluth lynchings, but
oh, that's a real thing.
Not for queer characters, but Duluth has a pretty recent lynching of a black man.
Duluth is the site of the last public hanging in Minnesota, which happened in the 20th century, the early part of the 20th century, of I think 3 or 4 black men.
Wow.
It was, it's really. So we might need to stay away from that sort of humor.
No,
but yeah. Where was I? Yeah, okay, so Minnesota, growing up and sort of coming to my own, as every person does when they reach that age that every person comes into their own. My idea of sexuality was highly based on the sexual education in my school, and we were taught that...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So we were taught that homosexuality was a thing, but we were never we didn't cover the spectrum part of it. We didn't cover like alternate identities. And so when I would feel attraction towards people who presented as male or people who did not present within the binary system, I would have to fall back on my internalized idea of, okay, well, I still find female presentation attractive, and so does that make me somehow flawed or like between the system or lost in the gap? And it wasn't until I started playing Mass Effect when I was starting to think like, okay, well, here's this character who's this really deep character, because Commander Shepard is one of the greatest video game characters of this like entire era of entertainment. And not only do you have the option of being a male character who has relationships with men or a female character who has relationships with women, but you can change that throughout the process of the game. And that was something that is really, really important to me, and like a light switch moment of like, oh, holy shit. Sorry, Jonathan. Josh. Sorry, Josh. I can do this too. And so, like, because that's
Mario's going to get a workout.
My self-identification, I think I can stop talking because I'm rambling, but yeah.
So basically you figured out that you were bisexual because of a video game?
Not only, but it was a
like
highly
a catalyst point for you?
Right, and that's what I'm saying is like visibility in popular culture is way more important than like anyone gives it credit for.
Yeah.
Respect.
Well, and I think that, in fact, Mass Effect was one of the first, if not the first game where the main character had his own voice. Like in every other game that I can think of, the main character, you had dialogue options, but he never actually said anything.
For BioWare? Because I'm sure that there's a lot of other games.
Final Fantasy X was the first one.
Okay, maybe Final Fantasy X. But BioWare, or the Mass Effect, for me, that was like the game where like the main character, the character you made actually had a voice, and he actually said things as opposed to just dialogue options you picked.
And that's really great because it provides authorship and like an agency for the player's actions through the avatar in the game.
Yeah.
So like you hear your shit. Sorry.
Point of order: Jennifer Hale is the better voice femship.
Absolutely, yeah. Mark Muir in the first game acts like a piece of cardboard. In the second and third, he gets a little bit better, but.
So I'm going to switch a little bit to RPGs. Do you guys find that your games, do they ever touch on romance at all, or are they basically no relationships and you're out killing kobolds and so forth?
Anyone else go first, because mine's a long list. I have to go through bullet points.
I think it's for organized gameplay, like the living campaigns, like Living Greyhawk, Pathfinder Society, because it is a set mod that everyone is playing. I think there's less opportunities for that, but the players can always make them. As we were talking before, back in the Living Greyhawk days, Derek, when you played for Vaz and I played Rosie, it wasn't a romance, but there was a relationship there.
Yeah.
In home campaigns, again, going to a game we played together, Mike Allen's home campaign, there wasn't romance, but there was definitely inter-character relationships, but that was an open campaign that someone made up.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll get to you in just a second, Alex. In Hero's Love Song, that the main point was the relationship and romance of the NPCs, and that was the impetus behind the storyline. Alex, you had, I guess, everybody sit back. We've got a bullet list coming our way.
Okay, so it depends entirely on how much individual interaction between people you get. If you're sitting around a table, you will have less of a chance, so it makes less of an impact, unless people don't mind talking over each other. But I found that any type of role-playing, whenever you have more capability of in-person interaction with another character, it'll happen more often and be more of a determining factor in what you do. Like, for example, anytime I went to a con LARP, it wasn't really a big deal because while you could get together, it was going to be over in another 6 hours. But when I went to all-weekend Boffer LARPs, it was a huge determining factor for individual people because you would be with these people for 48 hours. Also, anytime you're playing online, just like a Google Hangout type thing, probably not going to be a big thing, but whenever I was doing the official Exalted chat environment for 3 years, it was a huge determining factor and made at least 4 or 5 different characters I have really delve into that part of their personality without other people really intruding on it. So it gave me more time to explore.
How about you, Adam? Have you encountered any relationships, platonic or otherwise, in your campaigns?
Yes.
Apparently a lot from the Merry
I think it's a no.
Okay, so I'm gonna qualify my answer first.
And remember that this is a PG-rated show.
No, I know, and I promise not to swear.
I'm gonna preface your story by asking if you have any more booze, because I feel like I'm gonna need.
The long and the short of it is that I started most of my my initial role-playing experience was almost exclusively just out of high school, college-age guys. And so initially all we did was dungeon crawl. Like, we'd go around, and so there wasn't a lot of opportunity to explore different relationships and different characters, having those relationships. But as I got older and I got into college or whatever, my group diversified quite a bit. And we got older role players, people who've been role playing for longer than I had. We got female role players. We got different, alternative orientation role players. And things got a lot more in-game, got a lot more complicated. There was a lot of relationship stuff that happened. And I loved it. I kind of rolled with it and just kind of whatever happened. And it was fantastic because all it was doing was just adding a depth and richness to the story that I was already trying to tell. I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm generally the GM. I very rarely play these days. I think 90% of the games that I'm involved in right now, I am the GM. And there's like 6, so that kind of gives you an idea. And that's, the depthness, and it's not even just, like romantic relationships or there's platonic relationships to develop. Like there's a game that I started running with Tony where his character and my NPC character were basically blood brothers. They weren't, they weren't actual brothers, but they grew up and they went through the same kind of training. They went through all this stuff, and they were very close, in that kind of relationship. And that's what I deal with almost on a weekly basis is the level of a relationship. So a lot of my experience, and part of the reason why I did answer the way I did for the versus topic, is because it has never mattered to me what orientation or sexuality or anything that anybody was, as long as it wasn't detrimental to the story. And I could say that with impunity, because even if it was a quote unquote straight relationship where it was male and a female, if they were detrimental to the plot or detrimental to role playing, I would yell at them just as much as I'd yell at anybody else.
Well, I have to say thank you for saying that, if I can interject.
Go for it.
One of my very, very first gaming experiences, I think I was 15 years old. I was playing with a bunch of guys who were a few years older, and one of them raped my character in-game.
Wow.
Ooh.
Was it like
For real?
Well, no, I was gonna say like the rape, was it to advance a story idea, or was it just, hey, I'm bored, let's gangbang her?
I think it was, I'm bored, let's gangbang the female character.
Oh my god.
That's awful.
That's
After
horrible.
he cast mirror image on himself, so there was more of him present at the time.
Oh my god.
I was 15. The guy I was dating at the time, he was friends with them, and they were a few years older than him. And I knew this guy socially. And my reactions to him, person to person, were never the same.
Yeah, that they weren't.
They wouldn't be. I mean, that's...
Wow.
Or to the GM who allowed it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Helen. Just from me to you, I don't care how old you were. I don't care, the general you, not you specifically. But if it had been you, it never would have happened in one of my games. Even if one of my players is like, I'm going to pin her down and I'm going to do stuff to her, I'd be like, yeah, no, get out of my game, douche.
Yeah.
There is one time,
never ever seeing me ever again.
there was one time when, and it was just actually in this recent campaign where it was a magical rape that was initiated by one of the characters. It was to further a plot point. And before I got to that session, I talked to the female player, and I said, look, this is what I want to do. This is the reason why I want to do it. Are you okay with this? Because if you're not, then it's not happening. But if it does, then there is a dynamic that is built up between these two groups that have not met before. And I guess I have to explain that I'm running a campaign with 4 separate groups through the same campaign in the same world, parallel timelines. So each of the groups have not met each other, but there was an instance where they had a miraculous birth, and unfortunately, one of the groups, the birth went to the male character due to a die roll. And so I had to figure out, okay, how do I do this so it's not like super awkward? And so then it went like super awkward.
It's not an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie?
Well,
yes, it is.
If I could pop in, if that happens in the future, just remember that trans men are sometimes able to give birth, and like the fact that you are equating male to having male genitals or male sexual organs doesn't need to be a cemented difficulty.
Especially in a magic world, I get that.
Like dragons and like magic babies. Like,
oh, come
why
on!
can't
Even Order of the Stick had the belt of gender change.
Yeah,
that was
I got like rods of gender change in my games. I mean, so. And it was a coworker of mine who I haven't been really gaming with, so it was just getting a little bit awkward. So, anyways, it occurred, it happened, and a good dynamic came out of it, because now this female character who gave birth and then the baby disappeared and went to the husband, or not to the husband, but to the father. Now she has an impetus to go and find her baby with the other group. So it turned out well, but whatever crazy shenanigans happened with you, Helen, first of all, I have to say I applaud you to coming back to RPGs after that, because that's
I think I would have been done at that point.
Yeah, right. I'm going to apologize on behalf of my gender.
Unnecessary. I have learned.
I think
some guys are just jerks, and this guy was just a jerk, and I mean, they made the effects of that stick. My character wound up pregnant with children, twins.
Oh, God.
Good Lord.
So,
that's just
now, to be fair, I have dealt, this is getting a little bit off topic, I have dealt with rape in games, but it's always been for the betterment of the story.
Yeah.
I've never been graphic about it at all. I've always glossed over, stuff happens, we move on. But it's just that happened to you, Helen, or happened to, because I know it's happened to other people too. Yeah. That has happened to anybody is a terrible, terrible thing, and anybody that actually allows that to happen in their games needs to be hit with sticks.
Yes, agreed.
Or soap in a sock.
That one
works good.
Pull a big drive.
I'd rather a pool ball in a ball billiards in a stick.
I've also had like relationships in my campaign. Like one of my groups, they all have very different personalities, but one group literally has taken their interactions from the CW. So it's like this supernatural romance nightmare.
Derek, I am so sorry.
As long as the vampires don't sparkle.
They don't sparkle. Oh, no. That is a rule in my campaign.
Helen, do not refer to those. Do not refer to those as vampires. They're fae.
Yes.
I have an anecdote with regard
That's
to that.
actually what I
I'll
thought
save it
too.
for another time.
We're going into sparkly vampires. Let's just talk about the glam rock vampire I played in the World of Darkness campaign. We'll see how badass a sparkly vampire can be.
Well, now that sounds like a sparkly vampire I could get into. So.
Yeah. Literally.
Oh.
Well. I'm gonna bring that up. We'll bring that up later.
I just kind of wanted to jump in really quick.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, thanks. See, he's my GM, so I just kind of automatically have to listen. But when I started role-playing, it was like 10 or 12, somewhere around there, and it was, like a lot of kids, when they started playing D&D, it was just kind of dungeon crawl stuff. My first real, as I call it, a real D&D game, my younger brother and a buddy of mine and I had gotten the Tales of the Lance box set for my birthday, and we started playing Dragonlance. And that particular game setting allowed a much more rich environment for telling actual stories and for having relationships in games and seeking out relationships.
Speaking contextually for the time, I would agree.
Yeah. I think it's gotten so much better.
Generally speaking.
There's
actually social sections and role playing.
Yeah. Now they actually have social skills, social mechanics. So, but I think that for me, like if I had come across, if I did not get that Dragonlance box set for my birthday, I don't think I would be gaming today. Because it was just like, to me, it was like, oh my god, you can actually tell a story? Holy crap.
So have you guys ever played any queer characters, starting with Alex?
Yes, several. My most famous one amongst my friends was an Exalted character on the official Exalted chat. Her name was Cherry Blossom, and I was in a 2.5-year polyamorous lesbian relationship. And because I'd never revealed my actual identity until year 2, everyone literally thought I was a woman. I've also played gay male characters. I've played bisexual characters because I myself am only straight-ish. And each time it's not really intruded on other people's roleplay, because that's the kind of stuff that I myself, whether it's straight, gay, or whatever, only keep towards the people who are actually involved with that part of my life. It's how I live my life normally, so it's not that far. And that's why I said it doesn't really matter to me, the sexuality, because that kind of stuff only happens behind closed doors anyway. I imagine it more often than actually gets played.
I think you bring up a really great thing where you say you imagine it happens more often than we think. And the fact that it happens more often than we think is because there is so little visibility in it in our media. And having that visibility would increase the perception of the predominance of queer identities. And there's not an inconsequential reason why it's called the invisible culture. Like, queer peoples are consistently silenced and erased in popular culture, and having an idea of something like, oh, it's not important to show this, perpetuates that erasure and that invisibility. And so I think that's why I personally feel so strongly for representation and visibility, and I think why I feel so vehemently against any sort of idea that it doesn't matter, because it does very, very strongly matter.
And
I think
concur. Go ahead.
My point is that it matters internally more than it matters externally, because nowadays you see it far more often than you see it out in the world. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen behind closed doors. What I'm saying is that being into the local ABC community.
There we go.
And knowing the actual...
If people are having trouble with the terminology, you can use GSRM, gender, sexual, romantic, minority, if you don't want to list off the thing. I am a little bit skeezed by the fact that the idea of having inclusive nomenclature is something that could be dismissed by a joke.
Okay.
Well, and I think more what Alex was talking about, at least this is what I got from it, is like when he was saying it doesn't matter, is what he was saying is that, like, on a character sheet, like having a spot for straight, gay, anything in between, that it doesn't need to be there. At least that's what I got as, externally and internally.
I mean,
as long as you were internally consistent with your character.
Yeah. For pen and paper, it's fine. For pen and paper, it's fine because your audience, unless you're like broadcasting your games to the entire world and you have this huge following, the audience of most pen and paper RPGs is maybe like 6 to 12. The audience for video games is literally millions. And when you have that platform to broadcast the fact that it's acceptable to have a queer character, I think that's where it's really important.
Well, I agree with you. I completely agree with you, but I think that goes beyond more than just video games. That goes to pretty much all of pop culture.
Right, exactly.
We all agree that Ellen DeGeneres coming out on Ellen was kind of a watershed moment where people started saying, wait a minute, this is okay. And as someone who lived through the 70s and the 80s, I think I can see where we've come. I'm not saying we don't have miles to go. We have light years to go.
There's a fair amount.
I'm sorry?
I said there is a fair amount of distance that we need to travel.
But even in the last 10 years, we've come a tremendous way, and I think it's because of representations in popular culture.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. And, like, video games is a huge, especially now, a huge part of popular culture and where it's going. And, like, there's no small reason that video games is the most profitable market of entertainment right now. Like, even surpassing movies. Like, when you look at how things are, like, profiting, like, if you look at the numbers that just Blizzard is making alone, and if you think, like, if they would, like, just if Chris Messin would pull his fat bro head out of his ass for, like, 3 seconds and be like, it's okay to have a woman in Draenor, to use, like, a modern thing where he made his, like, sorry for the censoring there, boys club trip, like, if he said, okay, representation is important, here's some representation, like, the platform that has would just be phenomenal in making those strides.
Someday, somebody is going to think that using sexuality as a mechanic is a good idea, though. And I'm afraid of that day coming. Like, actually, you have a +2 gay bonus for this sword attack.
Well,
it's already,
you have to get to a quality.
It's already there.
It is?
Do you not play Skyrim?
Yeah.
No, I don't play Skyrim.
I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's in Skyrim. If you actually do the Dibella quest, you get a +10% damage bonus against the opposite gender.
What?
They had that in Fallout. That was a perk in at least Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. You could take a perk where there was Lady Killer, and I don't remember what the female version was, but you got a damage bonus to the members of the opposite sex. What was that?
Femme Fatale.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, you had a bonus to attacking members of the opposite sex, but
and extra dialogue options to seduce them.
Yeah.
Wow. Helen, you said that you encountered that too?
I was going to point out the Book of Erotic Fantasy. There's got to be mechanics in there.
Tons of them.
Yeah.
I don't think that was taken as seriously, by the mainstream gaming community. I think it was just kind of like the dirty mags that you were hiding under your bed. It was just one more dirty mag you were hiding under your bed.
It definitely was that.
That's true.
Yeah, you don't want to know where that ring of protection actually gets worn.
There isn't a slot for that on the character sheet.
There doesn't need to be. Excuse me, but I really want to know where that protection gets worn.
Are we now going to discuss
for this? I'm gone.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, Derek. Did I just give you something that's going to have to be edited out?
No. No, we're still good. If
That's
Josh
the title of the podcast.
has not already, killed me by now. But,
I would just like to interject, though, talking about something that I think, and this isn't like a serious thought. I'm not gonna go into something that's gonna bring people down again because I feel like I've been on a kick about that. But I just want to thank you, personally, Derek, for something that I'm going to use as an example for the queerness in RPGs. Because I think it was a year ago or a year and a half or something. You traveled up to Minnesota for the Kicked in the Dicebags microconsum, and you ran a game with your Universal Storytelling campaign.
Yes.
Which is amazingly beautiful, and I hope you're still working on it, because I would love to play that, and I would play nothing else besides that setting. It's coming out.
Thank you. It's
awesome.
It's going to be released in June if you're at the con.
Okay, cool.
Do you want me to buy a copy?
I would like you to buy me a copy. And if Derek, you could sign it, because that game was another thing that really let me get into and accept more of myself as a queer person, because the character that I played was this sort of WWE caricature, really campy.
He's breaking up. You lost your friend there.
Are you were the one that did Starfighter?
I was Starburst.
He was Starburst.
Starburst, that's right.
Yeah. Starburst! But anyway.
The more you know.
Just we were all there for that, just for the record. Becoming really in touch with that sort of campy aesthetic was really cool for me. And I hope that I was campy without being derogatory.
You were.
I think that there's a really
you were good. You were good campy, not bad campy.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
there's a really powerful aspect of camps that is really good.
Yeah, and there's a line with that being campy and being derogatory, and in fact, I think you stayed pretty far away from that line.
Yeah.
From being derogatory.
That's good. Okay. But I mean, I want to thank you, because that was also a really good moment for me. So.
You're welcome. I mean, one of the reasons why I use queer a lot is way back in college, I heard about, my teacher was telling us about this group that would queer different things in the 60s. And one of the things they did was they went into a toy shop and switched out the voice boxes for G.I. Joes and Barbies.
Oh my God!
Yeah. And then resealed them. And so, G.I. Joe was I'm pretty, and
Barbie's let's crawl in the dirt.
Oh man, I wish I remembered what the group was, but yeah, they did shenanigans like that all the time, and so it was all about queering what people think about gender roles and gender stereotypes. I mean, Metroid did that. Way back in
great reveal.
I thought, I thought, what was it, Sammy's? I forgot the game.
Samus.
Samus.
Yeah.
I thought it was a guy.
Yep.
Well, and that was the point. I think the whole point of it was you were supposed to think it's a guy, and the reveal at the end is, does it really matter?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got from it.
I remember, though, when that game came out, I was still pretty young. I was still in grade school when that game came out. And played through it, and then there was a reveal, and of course at that point girls still had cooties. So I'm like, oh hell, I just played a girl! Oh god!
Yes, confronting straight men with queer aspects.
Oh yeah.
I just remember thinking, I thought it was cool. I was like, oh my god, it's a chick! That is so cool!
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I found kind of interesting, and I think it was actually Anne Rice who said this in the kind of making of for Interview with the Vampire, the movie. She was talking about how the vampires aren't really, they're not sexual one way or the other. They've been around, a lot of the vampires in the story have been around for so long, there isn't a, just hetero or just homosexual. They're just sexual.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that
like
was the
Tom Cruise
point.
did a really great job of portraying that just being sexual, and to bring that into gaming, like that's how I've always envisioned elves.
Yeah,
Like elves, like they're around for hundreds of years. You know, why would they limit themselves to just one gender?
I'm so glad that you bring that up. Sorry, go ahead, Helen.
That's the point that I'm forgetting the gentleman who's sitting to the far right of my screen. With Captain Jack Harkness from Doctor Who.
Adam.
Doctor Who makes the point. He's from the year 5500 or something. They're omnisexual. They've moved beyond representations of sexual preference being one or the other.
And I think that's the next thing is that it's no longer going to be gay or straight. It's going to be bisexual, and I think that's the next frontier because we've been in a very binary mode right now, where except for that one MMORPG, I think that space one where you can like do whatever.
There's a few, like all except for every Saints Row game except for the most recent one has a gender slider.
Oh,
and
okay.
that's been going back for a while. Which, thank you, Justice Points again, because I did not know that until I listened to their podcast. So.
They just got 2 years.
Yeah, right.
Well, this is the established fact. We are the plug podcast, so.
So, if we could just get the infomercial music playing.
We are actually at the point in the episode where we do all the plugs and the nonsense.
Please go listen to Justice Points, especially if you play World of Warcraft. It is very, very good. They do a really great job of exploring a lot of issues. It's primarily a feminism and social justice podcast, but they also explore the intersections of everything. So they have like a race issue, a gender episode, a sexuality episode, all sorts of really great stuff. Listen to Justice Points. That's the plug.
Anybody have anything else before we wrap this up?
I had an experience recently. It really kind of opened my eyes a little bit. You know, as a straight male, I never had to go through the whole process of coming out. Mm-hmm. I never had to tell friends and family, hey, I have this, you know, this is a piece of me that, you know, I've kept to myself for a while. You know, because you're my family, I want you to know because I don't, you know, I can't stand lying to you anymore and keeping this from you. I never had to go through that. And then recently, a couple of years ago, I did, and I'm not gonna get into everything revolving that, but I'm in a polyamorous relationship right now, and I told my parents about it, and they flipped their fucking. And Josh, you can have fun with that one. And it was hilarious because all the stuff, like my parents have always been these very open-minded, you know, caring individuals. They have supported gay rights. They taught me to support gay rights and to be accepting of all races, creeds, orientations, what have you. But they were giving me the same shtick that you hear stereotypical parents when their kids come out to them, telling them is that, you know, the whole thing of, you know, I can't handle this, you know, can you change this?
Have you tried not to?
Have you tried not to? Relationship? It's like, well, no,
He's
because
got
I
a camp for you to go to where they teach you not to do this.
And it's just, and so
you're running into the not in my backyard aspect of that.
Yeah.
And good way to put it.
As a result of that, I went and I played. It was a one-shot game, and it was a World of Darkness. It was a very social, intense game. There was me and like 2 other players.
What, World of Darkness?
What's that?
World of Darkness and socially deep. That's don't go together.
Good job with your words there.
I can't speak, all right? And I haven't even been drinking. Maybe I should start drinking, and I can like actually make words that sound right.
We're over here having spicy water, and you're like sitting back.
But I wound up playing a character, and it was just a one-shot. It was a buddy of mine playing, and the majority of my main group has a lot of the alternative orientations, but there's a couple of friends that I have that are pretty straight, and like they support gay rights and all that stuff, but they're really more kind of apathetic to it.
Right.
It doesn't involve them in their lives. It's not part of their lives. So I decided I was going to kind of just as more of a social experiment than anything else. I was going to play a teenage boy who just realized that he was gay. And part of the social experiment, I didn't tell the GM that I was doing this either.
Oh,
part of the social experiment was that he was going to come out to his parents while he was also going to inform them that he had just in fact became a werewolf. So he had the double-edged sword of saying, well, I am both gay and a werewolf.
Wow.
And I don't think the GM quite knew what to do with that.
Were the two straight players playing your parents?
The GM was playing my parents.
Okay.
Was the GM one of the straight people?
Go.
Adam was the GM one of the straight people?
Yes.
Ah.
Yes, and one of the people that he's a performer. He works with all manner of different colors, races, creeds, orientations, all that stuff. So he's pretty open. The GM was pretty open-minded, but the other player, while on paper very liberal and open-minded, had never really had a lot of exposure to that sort of thing. I mean, kind of going back to what Taylor was talking about, how exposure is really kind of helping the community progress as a community.
Yeah.
He just never really had that exposure. He lived in a very Catholic, or had a very Catholic upbringing. And honestly, seriously, I mean, except for the Catholic Church being corrupt and money hungry and owning everything, I have no problem with the Catholic Church.
I'd like to apologize on behalf of the Catholic Church for everything we have said and done.
How long is this podcast going to be?
Tony, I don't think you actually have to do that because I'm pretty sure the Catholic Church has apologized multiple times themselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The current pope pretty much opens up every dialogue with, "I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
They continue to be all of the things.
We continue to be sorry and beat ourselves up.
The point is that it was a very eye-opening experience for me to go through it both in my personal life and then try to introduce it into a role-playing game where the two other people that I was playing with, they had been exposed to that sort of thing, but they've never really gone through it before. And
role-playing games like tabletop, especially because you have a lot more flexibility. Although MMORPGs, you have some flexibility. You can sort of work through some of that stuff. And just as a point of fact, coming out is not a one-time deal. It is a consistent annoyance that you have to have.
Okay. To reinforce this idea, because thank you so much for saying it, because it wasn't until yesterday that I was like, oh, I'm out, because I came out a few months ago, 6 or 7. To my parents, and I thought that was going to be it. But I'm just having to continue coming out. And yesterday I gave a presentation at the English undergrad conference at the University of Minnesota, and there was another panelist who wrote a furiously uninformed paper about the queer lexicon, and she was speaking as a straight woman about how she was confused by all these labels and how that was a bad thing and how the queer community was not listening to straight people when they think about how they want to identify. I don't know. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. And
Yikes.
At the end of it, someone asked, which I'm so glad that they were she threw her hand up before the moderator even said are there any questions? She was just like, nope.
Okay, speaking as an academic, how did that presentation get accepted?
Exactly.
No one read it?
Exactly. But regardless of the fact that it was accepted, it happened, unfortunately. And so the woman asked, if you're straight, how do you even approach having the authority to speak about these things? And it was a blur. I don't remember the response. But I remember saying if I could just interject and rebut about why this is a problem. But I had to preface what I was about to say with when you talk about other issues, you don't have to do this. But when a queer person says, as a queer person, I think XYZ, that person is invariably exposing themselves to a society that perpetuates violence against queer identities. And just having to speak out against that is you, without your consent, saying, I am part of this community. And
Well,
go ahead.
I think part of that is also where you are. Being an academic and being in New York City, that atmosphere is a lot different. I almost finished a PhD in psychology.